Well, for more on this story, we cross now to our reporter, Lerato Fekisi, who's standing by for us in George. Very good afternoon, Lerato. Tell us what's happening.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. I think the announcement of the president coming tomorrow has, to a certain extent, given some relief to the many victims, some who have identified the family members and some who are seeking for answers. The many foreign nationals we spoke to have said, that tomorrow is D-Day. D-Day in terms of wanting answers as to what caused the tragedy. D-Day in terms of wanting answers as to what is the way forward. Is there going to be compensation for the families? How do they take their families back to Zimbabwe, back to Malawi, back to Mozambique? And they really hoping that the president visits not just going to be a talk shop, not just going to be come and greet us and say hi and how are we doing, but beyond that, who's going to take account for this tragedy. We're now actually inside the Civic Center where various foreign nationals who have either identified families are here or are still waiting to identify the families, and we have also seen really humanitarian work being done by Gift of the Givers, who just a couple of minutes ago handed out food parcels. Or what you see in shot, the platters on the floor actually come from the Gift of the Givers, who have actually donated food parcels to the various victims. But earlier on you heard me speaking to Sheldon, who was one of the survivors, and I'm also with a young man who you can obviously see is still hurt, and he was one of the victims who luckily survived, the few who survived this tragedy. Ngicela nje ubuza uba ubuphamo sibanhlekele yenzeke kula veki edlulileyo, usakhumbula kwenzeke ntoni kwaye uziva njani ngoku?
Ya, ngisakhumbula ukuthi kwenzakeleni. Besiphezulu nje ibhilt lapho uhamba speed niyaphansi nje. Abalolunye uvalo namhlanje lokho ngethukile nje uvalo alukaphelisisi.
Uyakwazi ukuthi umlala ebusuku because as imagine ukuba uma ubona eza pictures esasakhiwo sisiwa phezulu kwakho kunjani ebusuku, uyakwazi ulala kahle in terms of counseling, seni offer issue counseling by social services?
Ya, ebusuku ngiyakwazi ukulala, but nye 2 days kusanda kwenzakala yikho ebengihlukumeza khona engakhona ukulala, but hayi manje ngiyalala nje.
Wena but I think wawukwephi floor ngalamini, wawukwi 5th floor, and then uhlale how many hours underground waseva ngoluphi usuku?
Ngihlale bengiku last floor ebuilding masiyaphansi, so phezulu awulantolo zawo kimi kwengisurvive khona ngoma awulaluthola mohle. Hayi nge first day ngihlangalala sekuse clinic hospital.
Well, there was a young man who was just recalling what happened. He was on the 5th floor of the building when it collapsed, saying that 2 days after it happened, he has really struggled to sleep. It's been really hard. We also have heard that the Department of Social Development is offering 2 months counseling for the victims. So on top of the food parcels, they're also now offering counseling to the victims. But like I said earlier on, the huge issue now, the huge concern is how do these families get their loved ones back home? So beyond people surviving, which really is good, which beyond people being able to identify the families, which is really great, 18 families identifying the families, but the issue now is who is going to take account, who's going to pay for the flights back home. And I'm joined by a family now that they just got their food parcels. Now I'm going to try to see if I can come and just talk to them and see if they will talk to me, just try to see if I can squeeze in and try to sit next to them. Do you mind if I sit next to you? Just move these a bit. Oh, okay, let me try to sit. Ma'am, so you just recently found out that your brother is late. He passed on. You take us through just number one, how you're feeling, having to have identified your loved one in that way.
Yeah, it's so painful because we are not suspecting that thing. We are coming from our country for working, not to suspecting these things like that disaster. We are so painful. We are so painful. Yes.
Does the ability to be able to identify, the fact that you're able to identify your brother, because many people here have not been able to find, but the fact that you were able to see him, as painful as that was, did that somehow give you some sort of healing to the wound?
Yes, we're gonna be happy because we see him. Then we are not seeing him. We're just crying. We are not seeing him, but we are happy. Now we see him, we are preparing to go home. Yes.
Your sister spoke to me earlier on saying that she's looking forward to the president coming tomorrow, but you guys want answers that speak to who is going to give you guys the finances to take your brother back home, because that's quite expensive. What are some of the issues that you're hoping to address with the president tomorrow? What do you want to ask the president? What would you like the president or government to do for your families now going forward?
We need help. We need help to assist us because we don't have money to put our body in Zimbabwe. It's more expensive to those funeral policies to go with our body in Zimbabwe. Yes.
Well, that was one of the families of the deceased saying that they are really looking forward to President Ramaphosa's visit tomorrow. He's expected to be here tomorrow, and they are saying that they are hoping that he's going to come with answers, that he's going to provide a way forward as to what compensation is going to be given to the families who have been affected, what financial support are they going to get, and above all, who's going to take account. An investigation is going on. How far is an investigation? Is anyone going to be brought to book? Who's come forward? So they're really hoping that beyond it just being a hoo-ha about him being here, but they want proper answers and above all financial support to take their loved ones back home. Let's go back to you guys in studio.
Indeed, my colleague there, Lerato Fekisi, reporting from George.